Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of EETV, where I strive to bring you everything in entertainment. We had a good episode for once for Trigun. It was the first good episode so far, and I'm glad to see it. I mean, I hate to see it in an anime of this high CGI art quality not have a good matching storyline. Episode entitled "A Bright Light Shine Through the Darkness." It was a good episode. We got some questions answered, and then now we also have other questions that arise off of this episode. So I don't waste your time. I thank you for clicking this video to watch it. Thank you for your time. Let's begin. Like I said before in my last Trigun review, I'm not going to give you a play-by-play. I'm just going to give you the overall layout of the episode and where I think they might be headed, because they're just playing fast and loose with the source material, because we've seen various changes, as you already know. So let's begin. It picks up right after episode 2. We find out that the person that was setting off the bombs that looked like dictation of the artist's dictation of viruses is no other than our favorite Gun-Ho Gun, E.G. the Mind. He gets a nice makeover. He looks really nice little sleek character design. Everything looks great. For our first appearance of the Gun-Ho Gun, he shows up. While he also showing up, Vash goes to take care of that problem. And we know that E.G. Mind is going after the plant. Vash stops E.G. Mind from going after the plant. Then we get a cutaway and we see that no other than Million's Knives has shown up to see how everything is going. E.G. and Vash are still fighting. Vash is able to stop E.G. from taking the plant. And it was a really interesting scene because Vash had his gun pointed at him point blank and said enough. And that's when the tone changed. I was like, ooh, okay, all right. I thought that they were going to go through something different, and maybe he was really going to injure E.G. Mind, but he didn't. So we get the playing of the piano, and E.G. Mind knows instantly that it's Million's Knives. Vash tells everyone to evacuate the town because he knows what's coming. E.G. Mind visits Million's Knives. Million Knives kills E.G. Mind by ripping his arms off, something that he likes to do. We'll explain that later on. And Million Knives lives up to his name, brings down the house. Everybody blames Vash for what Knives did. And then we have people picking up the pieces after the town's in rubble. And we see Vash is walking off east to the town of July so we can continue the story. That is basically the breakdown of episode 3. Now let's get into the questions that were answered. The question that was answered, we see what that little cloak that Million's Knives is wearing, what it's actually for, because it's also, not only is it clothing, but it's also a weapon. The other question we got answered, at the very end of the episode, we see that the Nebraskas make it out alive as well, especially Gosif. You know, we see Gosif at the end all bandaged up. We know what Knives, what his motive is, why he's bringing all this destruction. He not only dislikes the human race, hates them, but he basically wants to push the reset button on the planet of Gunsmoke. And those are the questions that were answered. The questions that this episode left unanswered was, who was the doctor, the older gentleman with the glasses, and also the young lady that was with him? The way that young lady was moving, no other child can move that way. So I'm speculating right now because we haven't gotten her name yet, and I want to be surprised, so I'm not going to go forward and grab her name. That young lady that was with the doctor, I think she's clearly another plant, because she has the same eye color as both Knives and Vash, and she has the same hair color. And the way she was moving around, she has, you know, you could tell she has superior strength, speed, dexterity, and athleticism. So I'm speculating right now that young lady that was with the doctor is a plant. She's just younger than Vash and Knives. Also, like I said before early in this video, that Knives is living up to his name, and he is. That cloak that he's wearing literally can transform into what looks like 1,000,000 knives, and he can just use them to desolate an entire area. And the CGI for that looked beautiful when the knives all came out and they were in a circle and they made this big sphere and they just came down and brought it looked great. What else can we also speculate? Because I can speculate right now that Knives is an eco-terrorist. He shows up and he's wearing strange clothing and he's barefoot. And he's talking about pushing the reset button on the planet and taking everybody's way of providing for themselves so he can do something all over again. So that's classic eco-terrorism right there. That's what Knives is doing. And all the gun-ho guns, we're going to see them slowly appearing over the course of the show. What else can we speculate? We can also speculate on one thing that came out. Vash kept calling Knives Nye, N-A-I, when we read the so now we got not only what he's known for, Millions Knives, and then Vash being known as the Humanoid Typhoon, but we get his actual like name, or maybe that's his nickname, that Vash is just calling him Nye. So that we got that. So that's a little bit more of the backstory that we're getting into. Knives likes chopping off arms. You know, he removed E.G. Mine's arms. He removed Nebraska's arms. His arm, I should say. He removed the arm of Rosa's friend when they were fighting. I mean, he just like snatching arms. So he wasn't playing around. He was not holding back. Also, we can speculate. Not speculate, but one of the things, like he kind of did look like Dr. Octopus for a little bit when the cloak came apart and the knives are being linked together, and he was using them as like tentacles to grab the plant and take it out of there so he can use it for his own purposes. That just reminded me of Dr. Octopus. Another thing, that really stood out. When they first meet each other in the diner after Knives kills E.G. Mine, he touches Vash's gun. But before he touches his gun, he said, "You still have that gun." And then he touches Vash's gun and it becomes blackened. And he told him, "You still don't know how to use you still can't control your gate yet." So I'm speculating, since, we know that Vash and Knives, they look human, but they're not human. They're like a humanoid, but they're plants as well. They're sentient plants. And I would just speculate that the gate is just mastery of his powers. And Vash obviously he does not know how to control it yet, because Knives said it himself. But when Vash attempts to stop Knives from taking the dead plant, the red one, because the doctor took the one that was glowing blue, the one that could still produce, but when Knives took the red one, he shot at Knives and hit and cracked one of the tentacles and put a small hole in it, even though the bullet did stop and then fall down, showing that he can injure Knives. But at the same time, that Vash has to go a little bit further in order to put lasting damage on him. So he's still using that gun. He can't, and we didn't see him, like in the first adaptation, use his secondary gun, which is his artificial arm. I'm going to speculate that artificial arm, I don't know if it does anything yet, or maybe they just didn't want to show anything too soon because it's only the 3rd episode. But then again, those of you who haven't watched the first adaptation, Knives didn't show up until the end. And now we got a complete display of his powers and how far he's willing to go to stop humanity and do his own thing and what his goal is. And it's only the 3rd episode. So maybe I'm going to speculate this. Maybe because you see Knives is controlling his cloak. Well, I'm going to speculate that the gate is complete mastery of his body, and being able to transmute and to take his surroundings or what's close to his body in order to be utilized as weapons and or tools. So I'm going to speculate that when Vash gets control of his gate, then he'll be able to use his prosthetic arm to form another gun, and possibly being able to take that first gun that he had and then his prosthetic arm and make the angel arms when he finally masters his gate. So I'm speculating that right now. Also, we know that Vash is heading east to July, and I think we're finally going to meet Nicholas D. Wolfwood there. Also, we see that Knives' group is using a bunch of lost technology, because E.G. Mine, you can see he got an upgrade because he was known as E.G. the Bomber, and then he said, I've been reborn, so which means Knives gave him all that tech, and he gave him that machine that he was riding around in. And I'm going to speculate that all the gun-ho guns have, you know, advanced tech. It's just like they did in the first adaptation. He also has control. They have mechs. They have mechs, giant mech suits that they're going to be utilizing. That I like the look of that. Also, one last thing I want to do. If you didn't know this, if you saw this at the very end, the episode name was A Bright Light in the Shine Through the Darkness, which was the hope, because Vash is going to stop Knives because he's the bright hope. But just like being the bright hope, when Vash released the little boys, his little glow worms at the end of the episode, you know, they flew in the air at nighttime, and thus symbolizing the third episode, A Light in the Shining Darkness, which means Vash is going to be the light that stops the darkness of Knives, even though it doesn't look too good right now. So we got a lot of questions to be answered there. We can clearly see that the doctor is on Knives' side, but you can clearly remember seeing in the episode that Knives said, oh, doctor, you finally decided to join me, which means at some point the doctor said he wasn't going to come when Knives went to Genora Rock to get the plants, but he changed his mind and he did. So I hope we get to see the gun-ho guns, and then maybe he'll reveal more of his plan, but we can speculate right now. But he already said what he was going to do, but I want to see what the gun-ho guns think that Knives is going to do. Like, we all know that Knives is going to push the reset button and he don't give a damn about nobody. But I want to see whether if he promised the gun-ho guns a different world and he's just going to betray everybody. I want to see if that little twist is coming. So we had a lot to unpack there. It looks good. It looks good, but I'll tell you this. Anybody who's watching Trigun for the first time and you haven't seen the first adaptation, you don't hate on the fans like myself that have seen the first adaptation more than once and read the manga, because it's going to take more than some nice looking CGI and a few plot twists and a little bit more of a deeper dive into the things that the first anime adaptation didn't get into to impress us. So episode 3 was good, but we have to see more, you know. And are we going to get the same old in episode 4, or are we going to get a little bit more deeper into the story as to what's going on? But this was a nice change in pace. I'm glad to see that not only the pacing got a little bit better instead of being back and forth, but we got more into the story, and they utilized some of the things to pose some different questions. And I'm glad they did that, because now we can get interested into what's going on. I thank you for tuning into the episode. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel like it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.